Perfect. So who we are, so as I mentioned, my name is Wallace. I am our program manager working on the gender work here. So I work specifically on this type of program, but then also in our wider work to ensure that there is gender equality and that we get more women and marginalized genders into our programs and supported in a really sustainable way. I'll pass over to Sophie. You want to say hello?
Sure, thank you. I'm Sophie, and I sit within the entrepreneurship team at Climate-KIC, and I am specifically the program lead for all of our work with Irish Aid, so overseeing various different projects within the Irish Aid set of activities, including all of this gender work. And I am based in London, but originally from the US.
Thanks, Sophie. And yeah, I'm originally from Scotland, but based in Amsterdam. Sorry, meant to mention that. Henrietta, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. Hello, Henrietta, and I am the communication manager working also on this Irish Aid project and gender mainstreaming. And I am from the Netherlands, but living in Berlin.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you. So I'll pass over to Sophie. You're going to talk us through a little bit of the background of Climate-KIC.
Thank you, Wallace. Yeah, so Climate-KIC was established in 2010, about 13 years ago now, by the European Commission as the Climate Innovation Agency for Europe. So we run quite a diverse set of programming, including a lot that support startups through ideation and acceleration programs, but also deeper programs with governments and with corporates and with quite diverse set of stakeholders. We've been working across Europe since the beginning, but in the past 5 or 6 years, our work has really started to expand internationally, with Africa and Latin America being the quickest regions, but also work in Asia and the Pacific Islands. Next slide. Just an example of the track record over the last 13 years. So we've supported over 6,000 startups through our programs. This is in Europe and outside of Europe. We also have a network of over 300 partners, including all of the local organizations delivering the programs, as well as funders, investors, foundations, governments, yeah, a huge network of partners across the globe. And then some more figures on the financial impact of our programs. So over 12 billion in enterprise value from our alumni, and almost 3 billion, maybe over 3 billion at this point, of investment attracted by startups following our programs. And next slide. And this is just an example of some of the types of programs that Climate-KIC delivers. So the entrepreneurship team, which we are all sitting on, is just a small part of what Climate-KIC does, but our team really aims to support innovators from the very, very earliest stages of entrepreneurship or innovation. So running programs with citizens through Climate-Thon events, through to pitching competitions for anyone that has a green business idea, such as Climate Launchpad competition, through acceleration programs for early stage startups, and then eventually connecting those formed startups with investment. So our work in Europe is slightly more mature than our work outside of Europe, but the idea is to be building this entire platform of support for entrepreneurs. And next slide. And this work wouldn't be possible without support from Irish Aid. So they've been one of our major donors for our work outside of Europe. And this is the international development arm of the Irish government. So their main priorities are helping reach the furthest behind poorest communities, supporting a just transition and inclusive climate action, and really focusing on poverty reduction and human rights as well.
Great, thank you, Sophie. Hopefully that gives you a bit of an overview if you're new to Climate-KIC and the work that we do. So diving straight into the gender mainstreaming program, we just wanted to give a little bit of an overview of what gender mainstreaming is, why we're kind of working on it, and then we'll go into more of the kind of practicalities of the program. So gender mainstreaming is a term which means the process of integrating a gender lens into all aspects of an organization's strategy. What it tries to say is it's not enough to think about just adding women and that's the end of it. It's also about looking internally at your kind of cultures, at your systems, the way that you operate, the kind of marketing and comms materials you put out, and really seeing, is this striving towards gender equity, and is it attracting kind of a diverse group of entrepreneurs for the ESOs here. And just rooting us in why sort of women are important in terms of climate change and the impact and the kind of crossover there. Sorry, my laptop is very excited about these slides today. Women are disproportionately affected by and vulnerable to the effects of climate change. So of those who are displaced, 80% are women, and other issues are exacerbated by being vulnerable to the climate crisis, whether it's access to healthcare, access to economic security, good housing. Women are compounded and the inequalities rise as an effect of the climate crisis. And then thinking more in kind of the entrepreneurship and startup world, women are really underrepresented in kind of accelerators and incubators globally. There tends to be a smaller percentage of just women-led teams compared to kind of male-only teams. And this is also further exacerbated by the way that investments are made to startups and climate ventures. So only a very small percentage of climate capital actually ends up going to women-only founded climate technologies, despite women kind of run businesses being more sustainable and profitable in the long run. So there's a lot of barriers and systemic issues that are kind of overlapping in this area. So we've been really lucky and really over the last couple of years have been developing this gender mainstreaming program with a focus on entrepreneurship. And kind of our objectives for the program are to support partners to apply a gender lens, so for them to understand how to actually do this in practice, embed it into their existing work, and then also to identify key areas where they might be able to start a new program of work or adapt something to make it more friendly to women and other marginalized genders. And then we also see this as a way to kind of strengthen local capabilities, of women entrepreneurs across the world to grow and sustain their climate innovations. So kind of building up support networks and also supporting their kind of skills and capability building that ultimately is good for them and also good for the climate crisis. And then the last thing is that we want to also use the opportunity to share lessons learned and best practices. So how has gender mainstreaming worked in particular areas? Are there actions that can be taken and implemented to other areas? And is there a real, kind of we can use this as an example to support lots of people in different areas to advance women climate entrepreneurship. So for eligibility for this grant funding, we are looking to work with old and new partners. So that means anyone who was involved last year can also be involved. And we're also looking for new partners as well. So maybe you've never worked with Climate-KIC before, that's completely fine. And we're really also excited to see some new faces in here as well. We have 11 target countries this year. So last year, from Kenya on the list through to Colombia, those were our key areas, key countries, and now we've added Papua New Guinea, Fiji and Vanuatu as an extra kind of area and region, and we're really excited to see if we get any applications from their from organizations there. Just to note, so we are particularly looking for entrepreneurship support organizations, so those who work with maybe run accelerators or incubators, who particularly focus and work with entrepreneurs that have a kind of climate or sustainability angle. And for partners who were part of last year's program, we are very welcome to apply again and welcome to join us for the program. But we do have an eligibility of 20% co-funding to be eligible for this next stage of the program. So what is it we're actually offering? What entails in the program? So what's offered is up to €24,000 per partner, to support innovative ideas on supporting women climate entrepreneurs. We see from now until October will be the kind of application and assessment period. And then from October through until May next year will be the time of implementation. So the funding will be given and you'll be able to be supported through the program activities to go forward with this. Some of the ideas that you could have around gender mainstreaming may focus on direct support to women-led teams. So we had some great work from our program partners last year who worked with creating women-only cohorts or developing a network of women entrepreneurs who could learn from each other. There's also a way to kind of look at your own organization, thinking about your own bias and how to build your capabilities there, or also how to update your marketing or training materials, for example, to be more inclusive of women and more representative of those kind of different entrepreneurs that you support. And yeah, but these are just examples of the initiatives that you could have, but these are not limited, and we're always looking for innovative, exciting new ideas that you might be thinking, I wanted to try this, but never had the opportunity to. So that's we'd love to kind of support those. Just to also flag that we will have some monitoring and evaluation parts of the program, but these are we've already framed these and we'll be able to support you in terms of your collection of that. But just to give an overview of what we're kind of offering in the program. So as I said, it's going to be implemented from October / November this year all the way through to May. And as part of the kind of package of work alongside the funding, we're also offering kind of 2 trainings on topics that are identified from the cohort itself. So last year, I think we had a training on how to communicate without gender bias. So kind of going into those issues of stereotyping and how to move away from that in your marketing and material. But it could be around how to deliver gender bias training to startups, how to support their pitching, how to support them in their journeys. So we will be delivering 2 of those to the whole cohort. We will also have 2 learning workshops, which is an opportunity for the cohort to come together, talk about what they've learned, what they've been working on, give case studies. We had one just at the end of the program in May this year, and it was a great opportunity to see all the different areas and how there were some kind of synergies between what people had been working on. And we also opened this to our wider network. So we had some more interested program people who were there who might want to be a good kind of network for people to tap into. And then, there's a whole host of other kind of training modules, access to materials, support from us, and also kind of helping us develop our next iteration of the handbook, which is something we'll talk about a bit later there. In terms of, so going back to that kind of monitoring stuff, these are some of the indicators that we'd be looking for to understand in the program. So as I said, we give a very easy kind of framework of a way to input this, but we would be looking for seeing the number of women you've engaged and the type of engagement, their type of experience on that, and seeing if there's a year-on-year improvement. So this would be for the next 3 years that we'd like to monitor this to see how it's gone for you. As also part of this, the program, we expect there to be a kind of case study for the end of the program, and this can be in video form or written. We even had some brochures this year, and this is just a great way for us to understand what you've been working on a really kind of local level, and also see some of the women entrepreneurs that you've been supporting through this. I wanted to just give a quick overview of some of the 2 of the projects that we supported last year in our program. So CCS Vietnam, they focused really on updating their communication materials. They sort of realized that a lot of their materials were very focused on getting men involved, and that sometimes put off potential women. So they did some really great kind of case study pieces on entrepreneurs they'd supported and the work that they were doing, highlighting some key women to, showcase that other women could be involved there. And then we also had Westervella, who they went for kind of all women cohort support, a cohort approach, where they went kind of full steam on supporting 10 women-led climate businesses, helping them to strengthen their pitching skills, helping them to understand how they could use social media and what they could do there, right through to sort of bookkeeping and other accounting and business planning. So really kind of whole package. And they created some really great videos that we were able to kind of meet the entrepreneurs and see what they've been up to. So in terms of eligibility, I'll pass over to Sophie if you can just talk us through a little bit on what's eligible in the fund for the grant funding and what's not. Is that okay?
Yeah, of course. So the costs that are eligible are really any kind of program management costs. So whatever it costs to run workshops, events, training, sessions, and to bring in any kind of experts to support those sessions, as well as coaching and mentoring for entrepreneurs. We will also support any kind of communications materials or awareness raising events or activities, and the staff time to cover all of those activities. We can also support small grants directly to entrepreneurs of up to €1,000 per startup, and that would be included as part of your budget. What isn't covered is any of the typical operating costs of your organization, or the purchase of land, or the purchase of physical assets. So the non-eligible costs are also listed here. But if there's any questions, we're happy to answer.
Great, thanks, Sophie. So just to give you a bit of an overview of where we are in the timeline, so we're currently in what we're calling stage 1 of the application. So the call is already open. It's up on our website. I'll share all of these kind of links in an email afterwards, so they're easy for you to find. But the submission date for the first part for stage 1 is going to be the 7th of August. And then, as you can see, there is some other points. We're going to have one-to-one sessions, and then people will be invited to submit their kind of proposal plan by the sort of end of September, to then have a decision based on kind of around October starting time. We aim to sort of support around 5 to 7 ESOs who apply. This will depend, the number, will depend really based on the budget and needs and the kind of ideas that are submitted right there. So the first stage, you might be thinking, we've mentioned this handbook. We're talking about doing a handbook submission. So we were really, the last couple of years, we've been working in partnership with Bob Inc. on the development of a gender smart handbook for ESOs. So this is a kind of work plan where entrepreneurship support organizations can actually put sort of gender mainstreaming into action by reflecting on where they are as an organization, where they are with their programming, and making kind of clear targets, looking forward on how to develop that and how to have more gender equity across their kind of organization. So the handbook is split into three kind of sections, and the middle one being kind of chunkiest with the four kind of key areas to input. But I will just talk through them quickly just now. So the first section is a kind of mission and values section. So the idea is that on a very high level, you think about what you actually want to achieve in terms of gender mainstreaming. You think about your current situation, so where you are now and where you would want to be. And this will help to kind of frame the higher goals, I guess. And you can be as ambitious as you'd like to be in here. And we'd love to see that kind of positive thinking around it. There's also an option in this part of the book to create a persona. So to think about the types of startups, women startups or founders that you'd be working with. So really to get into their mindset, which will help to craft and think about some of the barriers and issues that your activities could address for them. So the second part is the self-assessment. So this focuses around four key areas. So you look at your program design yourself. So how you run the programs, who's in your organization, how that impacts the types of startups that you're able to support. The second part is around your outreach and communication. So is your marketing materials and communication approach really inviting and welcoming for women? Is there something you could do there to kind of change that? The third one is around your approach to kind of training and supporting and upscaling, I guess, the startups that you're working with, and also the mentors and kind of any juries of panels that you might be working with there. And the last one also is kind of thinking about when people are pitching to you as a startup, how the kind of internal reflection to think about kind of bias and how that would influence, and what are the kind of steps that you could take to overcome that. And as you see on the right hand side here, there's a kind of step-by-step plan for each area, which is really hopefully simple and straightforward to be able to use this and create some really good actions from it. So at the end of the workbook, you'll be asked to kind of summarize the conclusions from your 4 steps. You'll then choose which interventions you'll commit to working on, and this will form the kind of basis for your submission of interest for the pilot and the activities that you want to work on, in the program, which will run from October. And you'll also be asked to think about how you define and measure each step, because it's important that we can also think about measurement and understanding kind of the changes and improvements that hopefully you'll make in the program. So the handbook is it's a great tool. It takes around, I would say, sort of 1 to 2 hours to read. It will take a couple of sessions to collect the information, but it's not massive. So it's around, I think, around 40 pages. And a lot of that is kind of just framing the context and understanding the different areas to work on. And we would suggest that you involve lots of different people from your organization just to make sure that you're getting that kind of full picture. So it's not just one person filling this in, but really understanding the different areas of your organization that could work on that. As part of this, we're going to have a Q&A session on the handbook, which will be on Wednesday, the 26th of July. So this is a very informal pop-in session where you can come in, having read the handbook, maybe have some questions on how to fill it in, have some some thoughts on it that you just want to clarify before the submission on the 7th of August. So I'll send that session out afterwards in an email so we all have it, and you're welcome to join us for that. In terms of just thinking about assessment for stage 1, so as we mentioned on the left-hand side, here are the countries that we're looking for applications from. The other main kind of eligibility criteria is that you are a registered business in that local area, or in that local country that you're working with. We had a question in the last info session that was whether an organization could do it virtually, but we would prefer organizations that are actually based in the country they're delivering services on. And then on the right there, we have kind of our assessment criteria. So these are the different levels that we'll be looking at when we're thinking about the handbook submission. And then for the last one on the right there, the implementation, that's for the full proposal. So these will be similar assessment criteria for both stages of the applications. So just to give you a quick kind of overview, these are some of the questions that we'll be asking assessors to think about. So is it an innovative idea? Does it put gender mainstreaming into practice? Have you kind of articulated the problem? Have you thought about management, data management and tools? Who are the stakeholders and how are you going to engage them? What kind of communications plan would you have? Kind of tied very closely to some of the actions in the work plan, but just to give you a bit of an idea of the questions where we'll be having the assessors think about. So next step, so you've managed to download the handbook, you've maybe come to our Q&A, you're thinking, you've managed to submit it, what kind of happens next? So we will have an assessment period, and then towards the end of August, we will invite a number of those organizations who have been successful to submit a full proposal. So there will be a slightly longer plan, but only kind of 2 pages, that is based on the handbook work. And alongside this, we'll also offer kind of one-to-one feedback sessions to give some of our feedback on the initial handbook work plan, and to give an idea of how to tweak that for the full proposal, which will be submitted at the end of September. And then we will have the assessment period, another assessment period, and hopefully begin a program by mid-October towards the end, depending on due diligence and things like that.